Oath. I'm Watanabe Shinji, Kudo Daido Shihan, and Yuigari Karate Renshi. As I mentioned in the last issue, today's video is about the Bunkai of Kata. I have always said that it is not good to try to interpret Kata, especially Naihanshi, in terms of Bunkai. This is something that cannot be overemphasized, but on the other hand, there are some kata that should be interpreted in Bunkai. And when it comes to that Bunkai, there is true Bunkai. I mean the Bunkai intended by the creator of the kata, and there is incorrect Bunkai. I mean the Bunkai created by later generations who have misunderstood the meaning of the kata's actions and created their own interpretation. As long as you try to interpret a kata based on the incorrect Bunkai, your kata practice will not function as effective training for actual fighting. And one more thing, even if you know the true Bunkai, the Bunkai will not make sense unless you fulfill certain conditions. I will explain about that step by step from now on. It will be a rather long movie. Thank you very much for your patience. Oath. The first thing we need to understand is that there are two types of kata. One is called Tanren kata, and the other is called Jisen kata. Translated into English, Tanren kata is kata for training, and Jisen kata is kata for fighting. Tanren kata is a kata for learning basic body usage and principles of movement in karate, while Jisen kata is a kata for learning how to defend and attack in actual fighting. It is easy to determine whether a kata belongs to Tanren kata or Jisen kata. Tanren kata is shorter and simpler than Jisen kata. On the contrary, Jisen kata is longer than Tanren kata and uses a variety of movements. By the way, I'm often asked, what other kata does Watanabe Sensei practice besides Naihanshi? It's nothing to hide, so I always answer honestly. There are three kata that I practice. They are Naihanshi, Tomari Seisan, and Pin-an Shodan, Pin-an Shodan. All of them belongs to Tanren kata. In principle, there is no need to think about the Bunkai in Tanren kata. On the other hand, Naihanshi, Nidan, and Sandan. Well, I don't like this name because I think these two kata are completely different from the original Naihanshi. But, well, they are so-called Naihanshi, Nidan, and Sandan, or in the Pin-an series, kata other than Nidan. In other words, Shodan, Sandan, Yodan, Godan, or famous Shurite kata such as Pasai or Kusanku. All of these kata belongs to Jisen kata. And these Jisen kata needs to be interpreted in Bunkai. Today we will discuss the incorrect Bunkai and true Bunkai on the subject of Pin-an Shodan or Heian Nidan in Shotokan. And furthermore, we will examine the conditions for being able to use Bunkai in actual battle. Oath. Okay, so let's actually do the Pin-an Shodan first. Just the first part, but it looks like this. There are some differences depending on the school, such as whether the direction of this arm is like this or like this, or whether the way of standing at this time is kokutsudachi or nekwashidachi, or whether the way of standing at this time is the same, or changes, etc. But in general, this is how the movement is like this, isn't it? Now, how do we interpret this movement? Let's look at some examples. The first one is explained by a very famous sensei of a very famous school. What do you think about this bunkai? If I may be honest, my opinion is that this is ridiculous. I have been practicing karate or kudo for more than 40 years, and I have never seen anyone prevent a tsuki in this way. If I really did it, I would be beaten immediately. If you think the kata is to be used like this, it will be impossible to use the kata in actual battle. I mean, there's no point in practicing kata. Now, for the next example, this is another interpretation by another very famous sensei. How about this one? This seems to work. But the question is, does repeating this action of the kata make this move better? If we are going to use it this way, why do we just practice this way? Why should we practice with this kata in order to learn this technique? If we learn kata, we must learn what can only be learned in kata, or what can be learned in other ways, but is most efficient to learn through kata. Otherwise, there's no point in learning kata. Don't you think so? If you want to master this move, it is more effective to do it just as it is in shadow training. Learning it in kata is inefficient. Therefore, this bunkai is also incorrect. Now, the third one. This is another famous sensei's bunkai. How do you think? I don't need to explain anymore. This is the same as the previous one. If you ask me if you can master this technique efficiently by repeating this kata, I can only say no. Therefore, this is also incorrect. Now, how do we interpret this move? Now, it's time to show you the true bunkai. Just to be clear, this is not something I came up with on my own. This is the one that a certain genuine Okinawan karate sensei revealed it. To explain, this action is a lure, not a uke. If you try to strengthen your defense, the situation will become more difficult. Your opponent will try various approaches to break your strong defense. In other words, you don't know where the attack will come from. Instead, you will intentionally create an opening. In this posture, this side is already blocked and this side is open. Therefore, the opponent will attack you from here and you will intercept him. Amazing, isn't it? I had never thought of this idea. Now, what can we learn from what we have seen so far? It means that there are several conditions that must be met in order to utilize Jisen kata in actual battle. First, you have to know the true bunkai of the kata. as long as you try to interpret and use it with incorrect bunkai, the practice of that kata will not function as effective training for actual battle. If you have to transform the movements to use them, as in the second and third examples of the incorrect bunkai mentioned above, then kata will be a shadow training with incorrect movements and rhythms. If you are going to do shadow training, it is better to do it with correct movement and rhythm. Don't you think so? Second, do not let others know about that bunkai. If it is known, it will be useless, right? If I have to fight with you in the future, let's say I set up like this. You already know this bunkai, so you will think I will not fall for that move, and you will try to break my posture from another place. In other words, this kata cannot be used anymore. When I had to perform kata in front of others, I showed them some random move that came to me at that time. There are many old Okinawan sensei who have such episodes. Motobu Choki, whom you all know, is one of them. When I first heard about this story, I did not understand its meaning. Is it such a big problem to be seeing correct movement of kata? I wondered. But now I understand. If a person who has an eye to see kata movement properly sees the kata, he will be able to see everything. And if I have to fight him, my techniques and strategies will not work at all. Considering this possibility, there is no way to show the correct kata movement in public. Third, you must be able to do one-hit knockdown. You lured him. He attacked you as lured. You hit a counter, but you couldn't make him go down, and he struck back. You prevented it and struck back again. If the fight is going to be like this, it is more efficient to practice kickboxing style from the beginning. Furthermore, it is not enough to just knock him down. You must kill him. I explained this in the second condition. The bunkai of the kata must not be known to others. If you leave a defeated opponent alive, the next time you will fight him, that kata, that bunkai will be useless. Furthermore, as long as he is alive, there is an ever-increasing possibility that someone else will know about it and it will no longer work. By the way, it is Naihanchi that develops the power of one-hit knockdown. Naihanchi is a kata that teaches us how to use the centrifugal force and center of gravity shift necessary for striking power, right? Therefore, if you do not fully understand and master Naihanchi, there is no point in doing Pin-an, Pasai or Kusanku, etc. Well, how was it? I will not be learning or practicing Jisen kata such as Pasai, Kusanku, etc. because I don't know the true bunkai of those kata. I will never have the opportunity to learn them. And even if I did, I would not have the will to practice them while keeping them hidden, so that no one would know about them. Nor would I be prepared to take my opponent's life in the unlikely event that I were to use it. My actual battlefield is mainly Kudo competitions. There, we fight in the open, winning and losing, and our ultimate goal is to help each other grow. So I cannot use Jisen kata in there in real mean. I define karate as a martial art and kata as an effective training method for it. Therefore, if I practice kata, I believe it must make me stronger in actual fighting. And in fact, it has. I have no interest in kata that is not useful in my real life situations. If you also practice karate or kata, I would like you to reflect on what karate and kata mean to you. For example, you say, I woke up early every morning to practice kata. It refreshes my mind and body and fills me with energy. It is an essential part of living a fulfilling life for me. Yes, that's wonderful. But that is karate and kata as a health exercise. Or I watched a karate kata in a tournament and thought, that looks so cool. I was impressed. Now I practice karate and will soon take part in a kata tournament. That's great, but that is karate and kata as performance art. Or I practice traditional Okinawan karate. I follow my sensei's teaching, repeatedly practicing kata and its bunkai. That's excellent, but if you've never used it in a fight and haven't personally verified whether it is effective in actual battle, then what you are practicing is traditional art, not martial art. Originally, karate is a martial art, and kata is a very effective training method for actual fighting. Of course, I don't deny karate or kata as a health exercise, performance art, or traditional art. I think each of those forms is wonderful. However, they are simply not karate as a martial art. I am concerned that if each of us in the karate community doesn't correctly recognize and define what we are practicing, the entire community may head in the wrong direction. I love karate as a martial art and want to continue pursuing it. At the same time, I hope to help many karateka who wish to become stronger through karate, but struggle to understand how kata, an essential training method in karate, connects to kumite or actual fighting, by sharing the knowledge I have. Also, so how did you like this video? If you found it interesting or informative, please give it a like. Comments are also welcome. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please feel free to share not only this video, but also previous videos. Next video will be about weapons. It's been said for a long time that weapons training is beneficial for karate. But why is that? In the next video, we will explore this why using Sai as a subject. See you next time. Os.